Alrighty, and we are live. How's it going, Mets, Braves, whoever you're a fan of? Thank you guys all so much for chiming in. Fans that being for the latest post-game show here on WardyNYM. My name's Tyler. You guys know me as Wardy, and we are breaking down the nit and the gritty innings 1 through 9, sharing our raw analysis and reaction, including live highlights from the game here in the post-game show. To the Mets' latest game, in which they are now 3-4 this spring through 7 matchups, as they falter to their rivals in the Atlanta Braves today. 6-2 is your final score. I mean, you looked at this game and you would have thought it was the same thing as the final series they matched up towards the end of last season to lose first place, because the offense was anemic until it was too little too late. The Mets had pretty much an entire starting lineup out there versus a Braves lineup that had literally no starters in there aside from Vaughn Grissom, who's going to be their starting shortstop this year, who had a very good day at the plate. Of course he did, but all jokes aside, it's spring training. It means very little, but I was looking forward to this game. Not happy with the outcome, but again, it's spring, so I'm not really losing any sleep over it or anything of that nature. So we're going to be deep diving this game, the good, the bad, the ugly, what I like from this matchup, what I didn't like, what stood out, and of course, another Mets post game that we're doing where the biggest standout is yet a Mets rookie. This time, not Ronnie Mauricio like yesterday, but Brett Baty. Brett the Met, who's batting .500 this spring, now 6 for 11. He's my number one start of the day. A phenomenal outing from him, and I have a lot to say on Baty and more throughout the entirety of this one. But of course, guys, everyone first chiming the live show, thank you so much for being in here. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. It's always greatly appreciated if you enjoy this kind of consistent Mets post-game coverage that we'll be doing all season long. We covered right around 110 games last season, and this season we'll be doing right around the same, a little bit more, a little bit less, including some special guests throughout the year. We will, of course, have podcasts out after every regular season series to recap and preview the upcoming, including myself, Anthony Recker, the former Met, and Joe Sorallo. We just came out with our latest pod 2 days ago, so make sure to check that out if you haven't already, folks. But before we deep dive at all, I, of course, have to let you all know that today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for all your sports betting needs, so make sure you head over to betonline.ag using promo code Bleav at BLEAV. That way you get yourself a 50% off welcome bonus. BetOnline, it's where the games begin. Now, folks, it's officially let the show begin. Pat Benson here in the live chat. I see Darren, great member. I see Grant. I see all the OGs. Appreciate everyone chiming in, guys, watching live or on replay. Pat with the donation, thank you so much. He says, I'm in spring training mode, but if the Braves suck, give me a hell yeah. I mean, the Braves don't suck, but I'll still give you a hell yeah. That was an inside joke we did a lot last year, pretty much leading up until, the Braves finally caught up with the Mets when it mattered most to win the division. Thankfully, for us Mets fans last year, the Braves had the same amount of wins as the Mets did in postseason. So it really doesn't matter all that much looking back in hindsight. However, this is a new year, and that rivalry is going to be fresh as ever. The Mets will be matching up with the Braves lesser this year because of now the change in the scheduling. So we know how important these matchups are going to be throughout the regular season. And here in spring, I was still excited to watch this game today. Wasn't happy with the result. The offense was anemic a lot. But again, it's spring training. We're only 7 games in. And guys, a lot of these guys are going to be heading to the WBC in just the next couple days, less than a week for sure, when they're going to be getting those games unraveling around March 10th, which is when I'll actually be at spring training for the Mets from March 10th to March 14th. And I'll also be in Miami for at least one of those days heading a World Baseball Classic game. So yeah, a lot to get into. And Grant, thank you for the kind words. Appreciate that. First thing I'd like to highlight today, Jerry in the live chat, thank you for reminding me. Yes, the Mets had some former Mets in attendance today, helping out, including, of course, Mr. Captain America himself, Mr. USA, and David Wright was in attendance. That was great. Daryl Strawberry was chopping up with all the current and former Mets that were there too, including Keith. That's always great to see them rekindle that relationship. And Edgar, I can't even speak right now. Alfonso is back as well, sharing, his just sharing everything that he knows about the game, of course, being a very strong former Met with the youngins there in the dugout throughout the game. So very happy to see the Mets legends in attendance today. And now let's get into the game, shall we? Let's talk 1 through 9. What were the notes here? What stood out? What did? And all that fun stuff. Again, make sure you smash that like and subscribe on if you guys are just chiming in or watching on replay. Always does mean a lot. Thank you so much for the endless support. But game started out, Cookie Carrasco making his spring debut. Now, for those that aren't aware, Carrasco is someone that the Mets were really much in favor of dealing with. Dealing meaning trading this past offseason, because they felt that they had the starting pitching depth with a Peterson or a McGill without a problem for the most part. And Cookie, they didn't love heading into the year. That was abundantly clear. The Mets shopped him for a while, There were some teams that had shown interest. However, nothing solidified, and that went in hand with the Mets. The not Carlos Carrasco, but the Correa thing going on there, and with some other guys that they were debating on getting on, deciding not to. So Carrasco stays on the team. He's looking to hopefully have a strong year for the Mets as their number 5, should he not lose that spot to, say, David Peterson. And what's also interesting, too, before we get into Carrasco's performance, is that article came out earlier today, which was great. And I Bleav it was from The Athletic, Tim Britton, I want to say. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it was Tim Britton of The Athletic, came out today and stated that, yes, the Mets will be having a 6-man rotation this year. It's going to be in spurts. It'll depend on the nature of how the season is going, but this is to help keep guys like Senga, Scherzer, and Verlander fresh. And when you look at Scherzer and Verlander, that makes the utmost amount of sense. I think that is the right move. When you look at Senga, you're wondering, okay, why would that be the case? But again, Senga is coming from a completely different league across seas where he wasn't pitching every 5th day. It was longer than that usually. And again, he had a lot of innings on his arm, as is, he has some wear and tear. So the Mets just want to make sure everyone stays healthy as much as they can throughout the normal course of a 162. So I actually love that they're going to be doing a 6-man. It won't be a 6-man probably to start the year, but they will have it in spurts throughout the season whenever it's deemed best. So you're going to have the Pearsons in there. You're going to have the McGills potentially too. And that is the best way to maximize your pitching depth that you have, thankfully. And again, barring injuries, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that doesn't happen. But I'm happy that the Mets are going down that route. Buck, again, I think that's the best decision that he can make with the veterans right now in this rotation. But let's start out the game. Carrasco, first inning, 1-2-3 inning, all fly balls for sure. But it was nice to see at least that even though they were some deep fly balls, the third fly ball was caught on the warning track. A nice snag there by Mark Canha after it looked like he stumbled for a second. I don't know if the sun got in his eyes or what. Again, this is Mark Canha, who's not known for playing in right field. He's normally playing in left, has gotten some reps in center. He's played all over the place throughout his career in the outfield, and has even gotten a couple of reps at first base and third. We even saw third for like a tiny stretch last season with the Mets when they were having a blowout win or dealing with injuries. So that was good to see Cookie with an easy 1-2-3 first, and the second, because the Mets don't do anything offensively, and you'll see that trend throughout the majority of the game. And the second, we see Kevin Pillar, the former Met. Again, it's kind of bizarre seeing him in a Braves uniform. When I think of Pillar, I even have his jersey because it was sent to me from a great supporter of mine, Dave. You know who you are, because of the incident where he got drilled in the face in Atlanta against the Braves. That pitcher who drilled him is no longer on the he's no longer in the Braves organization. I forgot where he went. I think he might be a San Francisco Giant. Don't quote me on that either, but I know he's not in the Braves organization. Either way, Pillar is back after being injured the entirety of last year in the Dodgers organization. He gets a walk, and then White with a 2-run home run minor leaguer for the Braves off of Cookie. Cookie was ahead in the count, 1-2, looking nice. However, he throws a changeup right down the pipe to just, again, you're getting accustomed to spring. He's getting accustomed to pitch clock. It was bad location, no less, and that's ripped without a doubt for easy 2-run home run to give the Braves an early 2-0 lead, and they would never look back when it comes to leading and ultimately winning this ball game. Hudson with a single without doer for the inning. We then head to the third. Jose Butto is in for his second outing this spring for the Mets. And once again, he looks sharp. Again, not great, not flawless, but I really like what I'm seeing with Jose Butto. In his first inning pitching, however, he had Wall with a double, Grissom with opposite field single, or just single in general. Wall scores on a double steal, which again is something that the Mets were really good at doing last year. I will never forget, like it was yesterday, the Mets did this beautiful double steal against the Phillies in Philly. I was in attendance for that game. That was back in August of last season when they were just blowing them out again in that big series. But the Braves did on the Mets. Jeff McNeil tries to get the turn in time from second to get back to home. Wasn't able to get the tag, that being in Narvaez, I Bleav. And again, the Braves get in a run that way. Pillar reaches on fielder's choice afterward, but that will do them for the third. So the Braves already have a 3-0 lead in this ball game. We head to the fourth. Jose Butto with a 1-2-3 inning for his second inning of the day when including 2 strikeouts. So that's why Butto gets in my Warriors top 5 today. Again, 2 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 0 walks, 3 strikeouts. Cookie didn't get in my top 5, but again, he wasn't the worst team imaginable. Just his first spring outing, nothing fancy about it with the 2 innings, the 2 hits, the 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, and 30 pitches. What stood out to me quite a bit about Butto is, one, he's topping out around 97 miles per hour. getting a lot of swing and misses on his cutter, especially. Really, really liked what I saw from Buto today. Again, even though he wasn't flawless, definitely effective and a guy that can be more organizational depth for them as a starting pitcher if you really need to be, which shouldn't be the case given the amount of depth they have, or as a long reliever potentially if called upon. So Buto, a guy who had that one stint, coincidentally enough, against the Phillies, and I think around that same series, or around that ballpark there, where he had that brutal start in that really long game in which Canna had not one, but like 2 home runs. It was a wild one, but no less, Buto is looking to have another strong year in AAA and give the Mets more organizational depth, which again, you can never go wrong. So we go to the bottom of the fourth, rather. Lindor with his first base knock of the day. Escobar with a broken bat, opposite field single, and that are doer. And speaking of Eduardo Escobar, halfway through the game or so, I don't know exactly what inning it was, fourth, fifth, right around there, Brett Beatty comes in to then shift to third base, and Eduardo Escobar goes to left field. And I think we talked about this already, but for people that don't know, Eduardo Escobar is now going to get some reps in left field because he's probably going to be playing some left field for Team Venezuela when he goes there in Miami for the World Baseball Classic. So given how deep they are, that's the exact reason. So the Mets and Buck are willing to do that to give him those reps. And again, give him versatility, give him more flexibility. If that means that could help give Beatty some more reps throughout the year, by all means, sign me up. So I was fine with that decision. Buck was too. And it was funny seeing Eddie out there. Just love that man's personality. His overall vibe is without question the best, I feel like, in that clubhouse. He's just electric, always going, wow. He's just always happy. He's like, I love you. I'm proud of you. And he just cracks me up. Eddie's the best. But anyways, we get then to the fifth inning. Drew Smith comes in, doesn't have the best outing, but not the worst either. Sanchez with a walk and a stolen base, gets to third then, and Vaughn Grissom with an RBI sac fly. So Drew Smith allows that one run. It is a unearned run, however, so at least it wasn't charged on him, but a run, a walk, a strikeout, no earned runs through that inning pitch that he had after Buto. Give me 1 second, everybody. Now we're going from, hold on. Checking my notes. Bear with me 1 second, guys. Why am I losing track here? Okay, there we go. Now to the sixth. Reyes comes in, minor league pitcher for the Mets, and he has himself a 1-2-3 inning there, which is nice. However, that wouldn't last too long as he got to the second time he pitched. But on the bottom of the sixth, Jeff McNeil gets a single, his first and only of the day. And what really stood out to me is because that is the Jeff McNeil that we love, that we are used to. What I mean by this is McNeil was just hacking it foul until he got the pitch that he wanted most and ripped it to right for a base knock. Jeff went 1-for-3 on the day, and because of how much I enjoyed that at bat, that's why I have him in my top 5 over, say, Lindor, who went 1-for-2. Or there's at least one other batter I think that went 1-for-2. I'll go through it in a second. And Beatty was 2-for-3 on the day, by the way, not 2-for-2. That's my mistake. I was doing the editing last second because, of course, Beatty produces there in the ninth inning when I'm usually having everything set up, and then I have to retype some stuff there for the statistics for you guys. Anywho, we then advance forward in the game. In the seventh, again, when Reyes is still pitching, Castile, veteran hitter in the minor leagues for the Braves, rips a solo bomb to left, and that increases the Braves lead. Milligan with an RBI double, and that'll do her for that top of the seventh. We head to the bottom of the seventh. Mark Canha with a base knock. DJ Stewart would then go in a pinch run for him, and then Brett Beatty rips his first of 2 big hits on the day. DJ Stewart trying to go first to third, not a great runner. He's tagged out with pretty much ease there at third base, but still nice hitting there from Brett the Met, who again would continue to do just that in the ninth inning. But before we get there, and easily, if it wasn't for Brett Beatty again today, he would be my number 1 star, and that is Montez Diaca, the man who made his Mets debut towards the latter half of the Mets season last year, an absolute flamethrower. This guy looked beautiful today. He had himself a clean inning. I think he had himself one. No, he didn't. He just went 1 inning pitch, 0 hits, 0 earned runs, 0 walks, 2 strikeouts, and topped out 102 miles per hour on the gun. Absolutely nasty. Diaca is one of the many relievers trying to crack this Mets bullpen, and he definitely gave a good case to do exactly that. And hopefully we see more flame throwing and controllability from Diaca throughout spring, because the biggest thing with him, huge velo, big strikeout guy, but again, he can get wacky, so you got to make sure that control's down, and thankfully the Mets have a great pitching coach in mind, and Jeremy Hefner, that should be able to help out more beyond what he has done already on that front. So Diaka, happy with that performance, and I hope to see more of him and more effectiveness from him like this spring, because he is something special that the Mets might again have another diamond in the rough for their bullpen. We head then to the ninth, and Lavender comes in for the Mets, another reliever in the minors that will not be making the bullpen this year. He gets himself in a bases-loaded jam, but manages to strand those runners and get out of it unscathed. That's great for Lavender. And then the bottom of the ninth, Almonte reaches on an error. Parada with a single, and this was a single that was almost a catch, a high fly ball to left. It was dropped, however. I mean, it bounced, hit the ground first, and won the glove of the left fielder there for the Braves. But then Brett Beatty rips his RBI single of the day, 2 for 3 on the day as a whole, 6 for 11 this spring. He's batting 500. And then Winokur, a minor league hitter for the Mets as well, drives in another run. So the Mets, even though the offense was anemic all day, we saw this yesterday, we've seen this in previous days, right as you see Mauricio and Beatty get into these games and finally get some at-bats, they're making a difference on a day-to-day basis. So that is my biggest takeaway. That is what I'm most happy and excited about from this 6-2 loss still. It's that Brett Beatty's continuing to rake. Ronnie Mauricio didn't do anything in his 1 or 2 at-bats, but that's fine. I'm just very happy with, again, what the young studs are doing. These are guys that, again, are going to have an impact on the Mets. For Beatty's case, as soon as this season. Mauricio, maybe this season, but I will say that's more doubtful. But again, he could prove us wrong at the same time, really depending on how that defense and offense looks throughout the remainder of spring. And then, of course, heading into the season where he will likely start there in AAA. Let's see. What's the point of spring training if you can be if you can be far and away the best player and not make the team? That's an issue for me because here's the thing, Justin. You can outperform guys in spring, but outperforming guys in spring only means so much. Okay, this is spring training at the end of the day. A lot of the pitchers that you're facing are far more concerned on adjusting to the rule changes right now and just getting their location right early in spring than they are about going out there and shoving and dominating. Okay, the guys that are really going out trying to impress their best among pitchers are the guys trying to crack the reliever spot or trying to crack a rotation. But there's a lot of these pitchers that they know that they're just trying to do their best impressions, but they're also trying to work with new pitches, things of that nature. So you always have to take what spring training does performance-wise with a grain of salt. You can't view it as this is exactly the type of production you're going to get in the normal MLB season, because that is the farthest thing from the truth. Now, could Beatty be awesome to start the year? Yes, he could. And I really hope he makes the Mets roster. I think there's a very solid chance that he will, given Escobar not going to be available for a while, playing for Team Venezuela. I think Beatty's going to continue to take full advantage of that opportunity. Mauricio is the trickier story here. He's really starting to break out. Finally, we're seeing a lot more from him, not aside from the Dominican Winter League, but we're really starting to see that pop here in spring. That's great. But again, even if he dominates throughout spring, that is not going to be a guarantee at all that he's going to start the year for the Mets. And what's most important for him is to continue to develop, get consistent at bats versus his, riding the bench for like the majority of the first half just to get sent down or something. Like, don't get me wrong. I love these guys. I want to see them on the Mets roster, but there are valid reasons as to why one, if not both, will start the year in the minor leagues, whether you like it or not. That's just the reality of it. Or do you want Mauricio in AAA for next 7 years? I mean, that's the most casual thing to say. I want Mauricio on this team as soon as humanly possible, but you let me know when you can find a spot for Ronnie Mauricio where the Mets agree, okay? No one should be shocked with Ronnie likely not starting the year with the Mets, okay? And no one should be shocked by that at all. And I don't know how there are fans out there that somehow find themselves in that mindset, but they do. I just... again, I think we're being too close-minded in what we're currently seeing versus what the bigger picture here. Again, great to see the kids thriving. Happy for them both. I want to see them both on the Mets as soon as humanly possible. But you're not going to see me here crying a river if Mauricio doesn't start the year on the Mets roster, because I never expected him to begin with, and I don't see why fans should now just because he hit 3 home runs and the 7 or now 8 at bats. Awesome stuff, but again, let's pump the brakes a little bit. We still got the entirety of spring. If he rakes all throughout spring, if he hits like 10 home runs in spring, then maybe we have a discussion to talk about then. But we'll get there if we get there, rather. Now let's go through the lineup real quick, guys. Again, this is going to be a long show today because, of course, we have this was a loss, so there's not much to harp on. Tommy Pham did not look good. 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. Jose Peraza 0 for 1. Jeff McNeil 1 for 3. As we discussed, Tim Castro 0 for 1. Timmy's been looking very strong to start spring. However, Francisco Lindor 1 for 2 with the walk. Ronnie Mauricio 0 for 1 is one at bat. Pete Alonso 0 for 2 with a walk and a strikeout. Abraham Almonte gets on base and a run scored, but did not have a base knock. Went 0 for 1 still. Eduardo Escobar 1 for 3 with the broken bat opposite field single earlier in the game. And a strikeout. Shout out Eddie as well. When he was playing left field, he was using Starling Marte's glove, which was pretty funny. Alex Ramirez, the Mets' top outfield prospect, 0 for 1 with a strikeout. Mark Canha, 1 for 3. DJ Stewart, 0 for 1 with a strikeout. Mark Vientos, 0 for 3 with a strikeout. Kevin Parado, 1 for 1 that we saw there in the latter half of the game. Cedrola, 0 for 1. Brett Beatty, 2 for 3 with the RBI. Omar Narvaez, 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. And Matt Winokur, they still have as, I don't know why. Maybe I just need to refresh this. Says he doesn't have a hit, but I know he has that RBI single. So I'm going to refresh and then we'll go from there. Justin, it's not clear he's ready. That's the thing. Thinking that Ronnie Mauricio is clearly ready for the MLB because he hit 3 spring training home runs is exactly what separates the fan belief, and thought process from the guys that actually make these decisions. With all due respect, Ronnie Mauricio is not ready for the bigs yet. If he rakes all spring, the guy literally dominates all spring, then maybe we have a discussion there, but we're literally only a week's worth of games in. Just pump the brakes. He dominated the Dominican League. Yes, he did, but the Dominican League is light years below what the MLB is. You don't compare them. They're not the same thing. If they were the same thing, that there would be no discussion or argument. And yeah, Winokur had himself the RBI. Again, I don't know. And what bothers me most out of this discussion is that somehow, some way, fans are going to come out there and try to say that I don't like Mauricio or that, I don't want him on this roster when I've said how many times already that I want him on the roster as soon as humanly possible because I love the kids. I want to see them get experience. But I'm just trying to explain to the fans out there why that is likely not going to happen and why no one should be shocked at all if you don't see plenty of these kids that are doing great in spring start the year with the Mets. This isn't a Mets team that's on a rebuild phase where they have all these open spots for their roster. Ronnie Mauricio is still playing short this spring, guys. He's not even getting much of any third base reps to this point, and you're expecting him to start the year when he's going to be playing out of position where he has very, very little reps in his entire young pro career. Like, come on, let's be realistic here. I'm not underestimating. I'm saying it's still not the caliber of MLB. So we shouldn't get them misconstrued and view them as the same thing. We turn to the Yankees where we hoard our prospects until they are 29. I mean, you're just not paying attention. I'm sorry. This is just nonsense is what I'm hearing today. Absolute nonsense. When was the last time the Mets waited until a player was 29 to bring them up? And lie to me. The Mets brought Brett Beatty and Francisco Alvarez up last year, rushed them up actually on desperate measures. And they're how old? 20, 21? Mark Vientos, same thing, 21, 22. Like, what are we talking about here? Hey. A Mets spring loss against the Braves brings the worst out people at times. It is what it is, though. Rory, keep in mind, Jeremy Pena played just like Mauricio in the Dominican Winter League, won MVP, and look at him now. Never know. Again, I'm not denouncing that Mauricio is very talented. I'm just saying you shouldn't expect him to start the year on the Mets roster. That's all I'm saying. I want to see him. Don't get me wrong. I want to see him get reps there. I think he will at some point. I'm just saying, if you're a betting man, do not bet on to start the year right now. If he dominates all spring, then we might have a different discussion. All right. This live chat, you guys are just absolutely too much. You guys know who you are. I don't know what else to tell you. But again, I think that's going to do it for the show. So thank everyone so much for watching. I appreciate it. I feel like we're going to have these debates all spring as long as these guys are dominating, which is good. But I don't even think it should be viewed as a debate, as it should just be the separation from a fan being excited about a young player versus the obvious reality that there isn't room for every great young exciting player to start the year on the roster. Trust me, if there was, I'd say, all right, let's give Ronnie a shot. But there isn't right now. The Mets need to make decisions. And don't get me wrong, 3 weeks from now, leading up to the season, we could find ourselves in a situation possibly where we're having this discussion about not only Beatty, but maybe one of Alvarez or Mauricio. Do I think that's going to happen? No, even Vientos. But that's something that can change depending on the course of spring and what the Mets especially do with the guys of the Darren Ruffs of the world, if they're still going to make the roster to start the year, things of that nature. Their Mets have tough decisions to make for sure. All I'm saying is no one at all should be shocked if these guys don't start the year with the Mets. That's where I'm going to leave it. But again, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Make sure to smash those likes and subscribe on it. As always, really does mean a lot. And stay tuned. We'll be back live tomorrow for Max Scherzer making his second spring start. We will be live Saturday for Justin Verlander making his first spring start as a Met. We'll be live Sunday for Kodai Senga making his Mets debut as well. So see you guys then. Thank you so much for the support. As always, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.